And that's kind of when I started the whole process of looking for a wig and ultimately deciding that if I was going to be wearing the wig every day, I would rather shave my head and not have to continually notice new areas of hair that was missing. So that's where I got connected with you guys. And I decided.
Wigs for kids.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, with wigs for kids. And realized that, if I'm going to take this big step of shaving my head, I want it to mean something to more than just myself. So that's why I decided to fundraise, because shaving my head was definitely something I would never do unless I was in the situation. I did attach, I feel like, my femininity and like my beauty to my hair. So losing that was hard and I would never choose to do that. But I will say shaving my head did give me kind of a new outlook on myself and others and just beauty in general.
I have an interview for you today that's going to really lift your spirits, especially if you're experiencing hair loss from alopecia. I'm Jeffrey Paul, your host, and I'm going to introduce you to a wonderful young lady who's experiencing alopecia. This is Miranda. Miranda, welcome to be with us today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So many of the listening audience are going through this or have gone through this, and they think they're alone. They really think they're alone. I'm sure you did, and you can share that with us. But I want them to know that they're not alone, and there are solutions.
So growing up, I always had just like vibrant, curly red hair. And it was always one of those big identifying factors for me. I straightened my hair pretty young and started not always loving the way my hair looked. And then over time, progressively noticed it getting thinner, but not to the point where it was concerning necessarily. And then I remember coming home from college during the first COVID outbreak and noticing that my part was just much wider than before. No matter what angle you were looking at me, you could always see a little bit of my scalp peeking through. So that's when I decided to do something about it. I didn't think at first it was alopecia or anything like that. I thought maybe it was stress, maybe it was a diet thing. So I ended up going back to Minnesota and getting hair extensions put in to try and cover up some of that initial hair loss, just because it was really embarrassing for me to be out in public when I knew people could see my scalp, which was something that I was insecure about. So I got the extensions, and that was definitely a temporary fix that did work. It made me more confident. It made me have longer, more full hair, but naturally the extensions were sticking to the hair. So when my hair was falling out, so were the extensions. So I got those re-put in a few times. But when they continued to fall out, I realized it was probably something to look into a little bit more. So that's when I started going to doctors. I got steroid shots at my first doctor.
Ouch.
Yeah, very painful. And like one of the big bald spots, he did 10 shots there, said to come back in a month. If there was progress, we'd stick with it. If not, plan B. So I went back a month later and there was no progress. So he ended up sending me to a different doctor. And at that doctor, that is where she gave me the official alopecia diagnosis, which totally crushed me at the time. I was a mess, just a lot of tears, a lot of anxiety, and just insecurity, embarrassment.
So tell us about how looking in the mirror affected you little by little as you continue to go through this thinning and loss and extensions and everything else.
Yeah, it is crazy noticing every single day like a little something different missing from your head. And I remember when I was home, I felt like every time I touched my head, something was falling out. And I remember even just the thought of showering was stressful because I knew my hair wet looked even worse than it did dry. So that was really hard, knowing that it was falling out. I will say that, like, I feel like I almost sought out finding them. Like, even if it wasn't showing, I would check to make sure, like, it's still there, nothing changed. Or I would be like, I don't know, even if it wasn't like pointing right at me, I would still see it or know it was there. In pictures with friends, I would always zoom in and check if you could see any bald spots. I would consciously, wear a hat or a headband if I could to try and cover that. But it was hard, especially when you're surrounded by friends who have amazing hair, who are, getting ready for the day and they're spending 2 hours on their hair. And, that's hard when you can't even do that if you wanted to. And that's kind of when I started the whole process of looking for a wig and ultimately deciding that if I was going to be wearing the wig every day, I would rather shave my head and not have to continually notice new areas of hair that was missing. So that's where I got connected with you guys. And I decided...
Wigs for kids.
Yes, yeah, with wigs for kids. And realized that, you know, if I'm going to take this big step of shaving my head, I want it to mean something to more than just myself. So that's why I decided to fundraise, because shaving my head was definitely something I would never do unless I was in the situation. I did attach, I feel like, my femininity and like my beauty to my hair. So losing that was hard and I would never choose to do that. But I will say shaving my head did give me kind of a new outlook on myself and others and just beauty in general. But I would say that having a wig is a very big aspect of my life that does allow me to, you know, go day to day feeling like myself. And if anything, I mean, having this wig, this is better hair than I ever had. So it's kind of a step up, but it's also an adjustment to, you know, having to put your hair on in the morning rather than, you know, just waking up and having it.
That was beautiful.
Oh,
That was beautiful. The things that you said, and I want to bring that to the attention of the audience. My hair was attached to more than my follicle, and I've always made this quote a part of my mission. The hair follicle is not only attached, the hair is not only attached to the hair follicle, it's attached to the self-esteem, to the femininity, to the romance, to the beauty. Even though that might sound to the listening audience that haven't experienced this kind of surfacey.
Yeah.
Not true. Let's back up just for a moment. How was the day-to-day looking in the mirror? You know, in my book that I wrote for Women's Hair Loss Solutions, the relationship of a whole chapter I dedicated on mirror, mirror in the wall. You remember the fairy tale, mirror, mirror on the wall? Who's the most beautiful of the all?
Yes.
That whole premise is really a part of the coaching process that we do, not only with our Wigs for Kids children that are our sponsors, but the relationship of every individual that comes in my private practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can start to look in the mirror and start to see the beauty within. And that's kind of our statement, beauty begins within. That beauty, though, gets crushed. And if you don't have proactive levels of care, you went through, you know, loving parents that helped you, and you went through doctors that helped you. Thank God that they stopped you too, you know, into the injection of the cortisone. That is really, really a good doctor that you saw, and they passed it on. Did they do a biopsy?
They were going to, but they ended up not doing it just because they could tell without it.
From the spots.
Yeah. A lot of me being able to still feel like a woman and pretty and beautiful came from my outside support system, because my friends, my family, everyone was really, really supportive of everything. But also, if you don't feel that about yourself, it's really hard to, you know, believe what other people are saying. So I definitely spent some time focusing on things that were beautiful about me besides my hair, whether it be like internally or just other features I liked. It is hard because it is just hair, but when you don't have it, you have to focus on like other things about yourself that can make up for it. So I feel like that was something that I struggled with, like trying to make other things beautiful if I didn't have the hair to be beautiful. But then, you know, at the end of the day, it comes from within. And if you can't feel beautiful in your own skin, then it's really hard to cope with not having hair. So I would say having the wig at this point helps, but also I'm proud of myself that if I'm not wearing the wig, I'm not like feeling gross about myself or feeling like not feminine. I have worked through to be able to do either the wig or without the wig and still feel like myself. But I feel like that is a process that, you know, you need to like kind of face what's in the mirror and just accept what's happening so that you can make steps to, you know, find ways to feel like yourself still, even when you don't have like hair.
And it distracted you from schoolwork and all the other things.
Yeah, and it was something I especially paid attention to with like my social life. I would always make my roommates and stuff do like a 360 of my head to make sure like you couldn't see anything, even though I knew if I moved my hair you would see it. So it was just this constant like paying such close attention to where I'm turning my head and everything, even though like maybe other people didn't know at this point. I was so like hyper aware of it that it was like consuming my thoughts.
You know, it's interesting because you had two wonderful parents, and I've heard them, the testimony from you, and I'll hear it from them as well. You had your spiritual support system, you had your friends, and, a sorority that would give you the 360 walk
Yeah.
around. I mean, it's pretty, but there's a lot of people that don't have that. And to the part of that, we are building a community that we're wanting to have people like yourself and others that don't have that build each other up, strengthen each other, talk about the tips of what you've learned and how to put curls in your hair, or
Yeah.
what happens if I can't, I'm going to go to we have Cedar Point here.
Mhm.
I'm going to go to Cedar Point or Disney World, and how do I know how to, and how do I prevent that? So that community that we're building is for that very thing. Not just alopecia. There's so many of the hair losses, but not everybody has the support system. That across the board, in the hundreds and hundreds of people that I served in my private practice and Wigs for Kids, is the one thing that makes the difference of the bridge over from this issue
Mhm.
and taking a lemon and making lemonade out of it and coming out better on the other side. And that's what you've
Yeah.
done, and you're going to continue to do. So now, all of a sudden, you have to go from learning how to straighten curly red hair and how to style it and make it always look good, and now it's gone, and you now have a wig. What was it like to have to go through the relationship of learning how to take and care for a wig?
Well, it was definitely totally new to me. I didn't know at the time anyone who wore a wig or had any sort of hair loss or anything like that. So I guess the first part that was kind of hard to adjust to is habits that I had, whether it be, putting my hair behind my ears or playing with my hair like this. I would be bald, like finding myself just doing that with no hair, or, like putting shampoo in my hands ready to go and realizing I don't have hair. So that was an interesting adjustment. The place that I got my wig did a really good job of giving me just basic information for washing it and styling it. Luckily, myself and my friends and my family, everyone kind of helped out. I started with doing the whole wig, styling it on a mannequin, which I was taught how to like pin it in and everything and where to put the
And not to
pins.
put it in the wrong place.
Right. So
Yes.
that at first I was super slow, just making sure I did it perfectly. But today I'm more comfortable with it, where I find that I usually will do the back of my head on the mannequin, and then I'll sometimes do the front pieces on my, like, while it's on my head, just because I like the way I can frame it more to my face. But I guess that's kind of like a hybrid of both worlds. But I would say at the beginning, very slow and almost like scared, because I didn't want to ruin it, because it's such a new thing to me, and it was, a big purchase, and it was going to last me a long time. Being very gentle and stuff, but I watched some YouTube videos. I had friends who liked to do their hair and were pretty comfortable like helping me out a little bit. But at the end of the day, I feel like it was just practice and just knowing that it probably wasn't going to be perfect the first time, but I can wash it and start over.
Yeah.
So yeah, just kind of finding different tools and different techniques that I think fit, my wig and my face the best.
Did you use of any hairdressers? Did you have any Jeffrey Pauls in your life that could help you in that manner?
No, the place that I got my wig, they styled it for me originally, but that was in Chicago. So then when I came back to Minnesota, I really just did it on my own. I kind of just treated it like normal hair and hoped that it would work out in the same way. I remember the first time I curled like every single piece, every layer, and my hair was out to like here. But yeah, but I've learned just kind of through trial and error. But no, that was hard though, I couldn't just go to a hairdresser to, give me a nice like updo or something, I had to kind of do it on my own, just because there weren't resources that I knew of, at least, to work with wigs, or even people who I could talk to in the area who had wigs who had done that before.
Well, that's exciting too, because we have over 1,000 on our locator of stylists that have been trained through my school, Hair Loss University. And for those that are listening that would like in your area a little bit of help that you didn't have,
Yes.
we'll be able to give you a link to be able to really tie into those people that really know how to take care of wig, because
Yeah.
a lot of hairdressers know how to do hair incredible. Now, it's amazing what they can do with hair. But when it comes to a hair system, even the knotting of the hair and all the things that has gone into the construction of that, if they're not aware of that, they could lead you the wrong way, or
Yeah.
even have a problem like ruining the hairpiece at that point.
Right.
So you didn't have that problem, thank you.
No, luckily.
You've helped Wigs for Kids. You've taken the lemon and made lemonade in it. You've created a community around us. You're going to help communities of others, ladies that are going through what you've gone through. But what would you advise? What would you tell a woman who's looking for the compensation to look in the mirror and get through those challenging moments? And I'm sure you got challenging moments that come up from day to day. It's not like,
Yeah.
okay, I got this all done. You know,
No.
so, and even someone who has hair has bad hair days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reality is, what is some of the advice that you'd give to an audience listening to us that says, hey, I'm at that hard place right now. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I would say I oftentimes remind myself that regardless of whether I have my wig on, my wig off, hair, no hair, the inside of me of who I am and what I do, what I stand for, what I think about, none of that changes. If you're not looking in a mirror, you feel the exact same. You are the exact same person. And focusing on that rather than focusing on what other people are seeing does help me a lot. I also think that finding things that you love about yourself that don't attach to your appearance, whether it be, you know, what you're studying in school, who your friends are, what you value in life, those things don't link to hair. So you can have all those without having your hair. And if you pay attention to those more than your hair, then, you know, it's not as tragic when you're not feeling your best about having hair loss.
So that's beautiful. You got some real advice. That's really good. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Let us know by leaving some comments in regards to your concerns, your questions. Throw some emojis up and thumbs up for our dear Miranda, who's given you a heartfelt of information and really true experience that you just can't get that because you feel alone. We started the program by saying people feel alone when they're going through hair loss, and you're not alone. And although that may not make you feel good right now, as you come into a community of people and learn more on the hair loss solution, I think you'll find there is a place to be supportive, to be strengthened, and to be made beautiful inside and out.
Yes.
So I'm Jeffrey Paul and Miranda, and we'll look forward to seeing you in our next episode. See you soon.